All right, everyone ready? Well, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the July 18th, 2024 Planning and Zoning meeting. Our first order of business tonight will be to review and approve our minutes. I'd like our commissioners to review them momentarily if you haven't already. If there's any additions or corrections, please state so.
I'd like to make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
All right. Okay, I do have one correction, if I may. Cheryl, this is on page 7, paragraph H. About the 5th line down, the sentence starts out, question the application. That should read, I'm sure, question the applicant. All right, any other corrections? Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you. All right. First item on the agenda tonight is Mr. Zeb Haney. Please step up to the podium. And Mr. Administrator, could you give us a brief outline here?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, this matter was continued from the last meeting so the applicant could provide updated plans showing lot sizes based off the ordinary high water mark of the lake, and also to work through some questions and review that the township wanted. That has all been done. This is a revised copy of sheet 4 of that plan, showing the plat with the ordinary high water mark and the drainage and utility easements that encompass the wetland areas. The township has provided their approval with a list of conditions that is in your packet. Looking through those conditions, most of those conditions, in fact, all of them are going to be something that the township will need to enter into with the developer's agreement. So if approved here, one of the conditions is that the applicant enter into a developer's agreement with the township. That's going to be at the behest of the township, exactly what all is in there, and that's where those conditions would get applied. They wouldn't be actually something we would put in our conditions. So everything has been set, been done according to the commission's wishes. All the revisions have been provided, and now it's up for the commission to determine what you want to do.
Okay. All right. Gentlemen, I forgot to inform you, please state your name and address for the secretary, please.
Zeb Haney, 3570 Montgomery Avenue, Deep Haven, Minnesota.
Marty Campion, project engineer, Plymouth, Minnesota.
Thank you. All right, do you have anything to add to the synopsis?
No.
No, we don't. We had a couple of comments from the township. We addressed those. I believe everything from the county was addressed. So now it's just a matter of moving forward.
Okay, very well. Are there any questions or concerns from the commission up here at this point in time? Any questions? Otherwise, I'll open it up to the public. The public hearing is still open, Mr. Kreiser?
That is correct, Mr. Chair.
All right. Is there anyone from the public that would like to speak to this issue, this applicant's?
Hi, good evening. My name is Amy Warner, and I live at 4251 115th Street Southeast. I was here at the last meeting on June 27th and asked that you please consider requiring this developer to remove the restricted use on the farm and instead include a designated open space. I believe the restricted use creates questions and confusion for any future owners of that property as it changes hands. As I stated last month, the horse farm is currently on the market, and the seller's disclosures have nothing noted about those restrictions of use on the property. Section 155059J of the Wright County Ordinance states that, in general, the creation of restricted lands shall be for the purpose of preserving productive agricultural land while providing for the clustering of residential sites on a non-productive land. The developer is taking the only productive agricultural land and clustering 11 of the 14 new homes on that land. In the April 4th Commission meeting minutes, Jeff Vanderlinde stated they're okay with open space or restricted land. It does not matter to them. When we were here last month, it seemed you all felt like it was maybe a Franklin Township decision. I was at their last meeting, and they believe it's a county decision. You can see that in the notes provided in your staff report tonight. Over the past 10 months of attending the county and township meetings, we've run across this issue a lot of whether it's a township decision or a county decision. There seems to be a lot of confusion on what the county expects of the township and what the township expects of the county. It was mentioned here at a recent meeting that Franklin Township has vetted the decision to approve a cul-de-sac versus requiring a through street for this plan. And I can understand why the commission's feeling this way. The township continues to reaffirm this plan. Unfortunately, their reasons for reaffirming have nothing to do with vetting the plan. The only vetting that was done by our township asked the developer earlier this year to see what they could do to create a plan with a through road. The developer denied that request and told the township if they required them to connect the new road through to 110th, the development would be dead. When asked at this latest Franklin Township meeting last week if and why the township preferred a cul-de-sac, Supervisor Newman stated first that he preferred the cul-de-sac because the development wouldn't happen if they were required to make it a through road, and second, because he prefers it for the snowplows. The cost, safety, logistics, future development, traffic, flow patterns, none of this has ever been considered by the township because the developer said if they have to push the road through, the development is dead. I can't argue with the ease of snowplowing, but I don't think it should be the only consideration of why we don't see a through road on this plan. I was here at the March 7th Planning Commission meeting where it sounded like this commission was really looking to see that through road as well. The developer returned the following month to tell you all the reasons why they can't and won't connect the road. I would also like to remind you tonight that the proposed cul-de-sac violates Chapter 154 of the ordinances that state a cul-de-sac should be no longer than 500 feet, including the turnaround. We know that you can grant variances to this, but there should be a valid reason for deviating from the rules. I don't believe that the negative financial impacts to the developer should be considered as a valid reason to deviate from our ordinances. I ask that you please consider the future development in our township and county logistics, safety, and traffic flow when you consider whether or not that road should connect to 110th, not the fact that our township continues to reaffirm what best suits the developer. Thank you for your time tonight.
Thank you. Is there anyone else out in the audience? Sir?
Hi, Keith Butcher, 4019 115th Street, Delano, Franklin Township. I'm going to make it quick, but I think it's 4 minutes here, so I don't want to ramble on or babble. I just want to make some points that you've heard before, and I just want to share the facts. And one of those facts at the first meeting when we were here was we knew that we weren't going to stop this development. We just wanted that through street, and we made some great points. We have some officers, we had some firemen in here, and everybody on the council was nodding their head like, this makes sense. I like what I'm hearing. At the end of that, I don't think it was you, the person that normally sits in the middle, said, I want to bring this to a vote. And they asked Mr. Haney if he wanted to vote, telling him that it didn't look very well for you. This wasn't going to go good. They tabled it until the next month. The next month, Mr. Vanderlyn, he came in, they made some small changes to the roundabout, and they made some bigger lots. At that time, I feel like there were some half-truths being said, that the township was broke, and the township wanted this tax base. Well, after getting their financials and talking to Stephanie, who was appalled by that, said, we are not broke, we don't need this tax base. Another point was saying that there's a lot of these roundabouts all over Franklin Township, and he rattled off 4 or 5 or 6 of them. After further review, few of those were longer, and the reason because there was a swamp behind it, or a lake, or something, other circumstance that there couldn't be a through street. Mr. Malberg said in that second meeting he wanted to remind everybody of these ordinances, and like Amy said, have a valiant reason to change them or deviate from them. Dan, you said at the end of the last meeting that the county preferred the cul-de-sac, and I was at all the township meetings, and he did say that, but there was a disclaimer in it by saying, being I haven't seen any other plan that I've asked for a through street, I guess I prefer a cul-de-sac. The $1 million road, Jeff said it would cost to poo-poo the idea. We got the numbers from Franklin Township. They said it was a third of that, which is also a substantial amount of money, but a third. the oxymoron is they want to put a through street in for us, but they want to put a through street in for all their construction guys and all their roads because it's easier for them, more convenient. The in and out is right there. But as soon as that's done, they'll grass it over and then we'll deal with the rest of the traffic and everything that has to go along with it. I apologize for being fired up, but I worked my whole life to move into a quiet neighborhood. But I'm not going to let this realtor and this developer come in and tell half-truths and wanting you to bend and break these rules just so they can make $7 million instead of the 6.5 to put in the road. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I have a question for,
Certainly.
I did want to correct you that, I never said that the county wanted the cul-de-sac. I said the
The
township.
township, I
wanted the
misspoke.
cul-de-sac.
Yeah, I
And
misspoke.
they were very clear about that.
Okay.
And I just reaffirmed that.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
All right, anyone else from the audience that would like to speak to this issue? Anyone else? All right, we'll bring it back up here, and gentlemen, you can proceed up to the podium. Mr. Vandy Lindy, your name was mentioned, if you'd like to join the group up here too. All right, what you've heard from the public, do you have any response to any of that?
First, I'd like to respond to the open space comment. The township was presented two plans, one with open space and this plan. They opted for this plan without the open space, or they approved it, whether, again, presented both, they approved this one. The comment relative to the construction traffic, that's not easier, it's more disruptive to the site to allow the construction or have a temporary construction road. But the purpose of the temporary construction road is to keep heavy equipment off different portions of the road that they would otherwise have to travel if the construction road weren't built. So it's a lot different than a through street. It's not easier for the development. It's to try and save the existing roads or preserve some of the existing roads from the construction traffic. Township did approve this cul-de-sac. They didn't ask for a drawing that showed a through street. We didn't present one because they didn't ask for it. That's what was approved by the township. Jeff?
I think I'd just like to address the one comment that said we're not disclosing that this is a restricted piece. Right here is the current listing. It says right in the listing, but it's under agent comments that this is a restricted piece and doesn't have, the concern is that it can be split again. Here's the listing, here's printed out today, and the exact words say, property is part of a PUD and cannot be subdivided. This is on the main listing on the house, the existing piece. The other thing with the outlot, there was a piece done with this a couple of years ago by Tom Gagne, and it was also the seller was David Lubin, and there is an outlot there. And it's five units, and there's an outlot, and now the developer is calling me, and he's paying taxes on an outlot. None of the residents want the outlot, and he's gonna let it go back to county forfeit and taxes because nobody wants to pay it because it's just sitting there. And that's why there was no open space on this one.
Mr. Haney, do you have any comment?
No, well, there's a lot being thrown around about what we make on this project and what we don't. On the other hand, we're told it doesn't matter. Well, then it shouldn't matter. But if we could get $7 million for this project, I would die and go to heaven. So that's all I have to say. And this is a difficult project, and we're trying to make it work, and we're just trying to do the best plan that we can for everybody in the area and make a great development.
Very well. Any other questions from the board?
Can you just talk a little bit about what your temporary access road, where it is exactly coming in from, and what specs you build that road to, what your restoration is after you're done with it?
The temporary access will more than likely be off 110, and it won't be built to any specs. It'll be maintained as the construction uses it. If it needs more gravel or more sand, it'll be maintained that way.
Well, presumably you have to build it up a little bit to start. You're not just gonna drive it through the pasture that's there.
Right, well, they probably will try and drive it through the pasture, and if they can't make it, we'll throw some gravel down to allow them to get by.
Just throw some class 5 down, that's it.
Yes.
Okay.
Anyone else? Mr. Bravender?
Again, on the temporary access, it sounds like this is gonna be something that you and the township decide whether you're gonna even need that or not. Is that correct? I was reading through the minutes.
Yes, that's correct, but I think the township's pretty clear that they're gonna wanna try and see something like that.
Yep. As to how it's gonna be used and how often that's gonna be negotiable, apparently.
Yes, and it'll be, the temporary construction access will be for the construction of the road and the development. It won't be for the construction of the homes.
Right, that's what I understood. Okay, thank you.
Mr. Reinberger,
Yes, sir.
could you remind me which is the restricted parcel?
Parcel 6, the big one in the middle.
Okay. I know I had asked you that last meeting, but I couldn't recall. All right. Well, any other questions, or otherwise we'll bring it up here for a vote.
Somebody's got to make a motion, don't they?
Waiting for a motion.
So, Mr. Chair, I have a question for either Barry or Greg. Now, when it comes to, for instance, the temporary road, and some of the other things that the township is requesting, is this something that's gonna be dealt with in the developers agreement that we don't need to deal with in our motion?
Mr. Chair, Member Bravender, usually issues related to the road are issues that we put in the developers agreement, and those are enforced by the township through a letter of credit or bond that the township would then address.
Okay.
Because if there's a violation of it, we don't revoke the plat. The township would go in and correct the issues with their letter of credit or bond underneath their contractual agreement with the developer.
Okay, because also I was reading that there were like 3 different requests for different amounts in the bond, according to the minutes. And that's all gonna be dealt with the township, correct?
That would be dealt with the township.
Okay, thank you.
If they don't sign a developer's agreement, there's no road, there's no development, there's no nothing.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, for a little bit of clarity on that too, is one of the reasons we do that is exactly like Mr. Kreiser said. Once we approve a development and it gets through the final plat stage, there's no way for us to revoke a final plat. And so in this case, this protects the township because we would not accept the final plat until we have that satisfactory agreement with the township for whatever the agreement specifies.
Okay, I mean, that's similar to what we just did in Cokato Township last year with Ashwell. Yep, okay. Okay, that's my only question.
All right. Do we have a motion?
Mr. Chair, I'm prepared to make a motion
Very well.
to approve a conditional use permit.
Do you want to just?
So, do you want me to read this whole thing?
I can help you. Excuse me. Mr. Chair, members, the Planning Commission would be to approve the conditional use permit and approve the motion as articulated by staff in bold in the staff report as part of this action item with conditions numbered 1 through 10.
And the applicant, are you aware of that? The 1 through 10? On the motion?
Right here if you want
Okay, that's my motion.
I'll second that.
All right. I have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
I guess my only discussion is, I go back to the roads and the cul-de-sac and the ordinances, and to a degree, the train has left the station with the decisions that were made previously, and I'm struggling with, to vote against the motion. I think I would have to have a basis to find that the roads as proposed are inadequate. Not just that they're not the right ones, that they're not very good, but that they would be inadequate. And I can't, as I sit here, in the posture that we're in, find them to be inadequate. And so while I don't like this plan relative to what I think were the alternatives that were out there, I don't think I can, with the township's position and the other evidence, find that it's inadequate, unfortunately for me.
What is the inadequate? What are you?
I'm saying I can't find that it is inadequate.
Oh, I see.
The posture has changed because of the decisions that were made with respect to the PUD, I think, in the past. And so now that that posture has changed, it is harder to vote against this proposal.
I'm gonna abstain from this vote because I feel like there's a lot of information that happened while I was out that I can't get a grasp on and haven't gotten clear enough answers to.
All right, anyone else? All right, those in favor of the motion indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. And may the record note that Sandy will be abstaining. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good luck. Thank you. All right. Well, our next item tonight is Brian Mickelson. Could you please state your name for the secretary, please?
Brian Mickelson, 2195 Cameron Avenue Southeast.
Thank you. Barry?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, Sharon Mikes. The property is 11.95 acres in Rockford Township, west of Cameron Avenue and Dean Lake and south of 20th Street. The property is in the Northeast Quadrant Land Use Plan as rural residential, and it was rezoned to ag residential previously. And that's how it sits at the 11.95 acres. This request is to rezone to R2A suburban residential. This is all with the S2 shoreland overlay. And then ultimately, there will be a subsequent request, if approved, for a 2-lot subdivision. The land use plan that's shown right now clearly indicates it is in a rural residential area. It was rezoned to agricultural residential. That was in 1992. And this would be the subsequent 2-lot subdivision, the concept plan that was provided with the rezoning hearing. This property was recently through a variance with the Board of Adjustment in preparation for this. Without that variance, the Planning Commission wouldn't be able to hear it. And so they went to the Planning Commission first. The existing building that's on the site is properly sized as for an 11.95 acre site, but it is oversized for the resulting 6-acre parcel that would be proposed. So we require the variance before rezoning and subdivision can get approved.
And obviously that variance was granted.
It was granted.
Thank you.
The township did submit an approval for this in May of 2023. We did also have the variance approval from the township as well, but it wasn't included in your packet. So that's what I got.
Okay. Very well. Sir, do you have any comments to add to that?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll keep it brief. Bruce, thank you for that overview. I think it's important to provide information how the rezone and subdivision does not affect the neighbors. I have a couple neighbors here now. They need some clarification with some things. The environment, which in my situation is the Dean Lake Association, and how the situation still coincides, how Bruce said, with the Wright County Land Use Plan. Couple people know I'm here today, and like I said, it's hard to do too much close to a lake without people being involved. And Dan knows I'm here. Dan Nadeau, he knows that I'm here. And so does Jeff Oliver. He's the president of the Dean Lake Association. They know this is going on. They are fine with it. I talked to Dan this morning. I actually had talked to him in April because we're trying to come up with a project down where there's a drainage ditch that goes in between the hay fields. And what we're trying to do is widen that ditch a little bit, throw in some riprap, and stop the sediment from getting into Dean Lake. So I have some people here, some neighbors that are just need a little bit of clarification about the separation of the property, that it's not going to cause overflowing or gets high water, right, ladies? High water near their property. And they are, you guys see my property, and it goes underneath Cameron, and then there's the little section there that is open land. They are to the left, whoever's moving that cursor around. I told Jake, or I told Rolstad, I said, I don't care what you guys do down there. I told Dan that they can do whatever they want, survey, do the testing. Just want to basically let these guys know that dividing the property is not going to cause any difference of flow of water into Dean Lake. And actually what I'm trying to do is make it better. And like I said, talk to Dan and want to get going on that. And I said, I'll do whatever it takes to make the water not so flow much in there and not have so much sediment going into the lake, because we all know Wright County's lakes are probably the worst in the state. They're pretty damn close. So, and then really quick, like what Bruce said, will the subdivision abide by Wright County's land use plan? We just saw it. Creating the 6 acres and the 5 acres will be bigger than all the adjacent properties that are in the area. So obviously, like I said, that's why I'm here. That's why I went through the variance and did the concept plan so you guys could see what was going on. Thank you.
All right, very well. Now, would there any be comment from the public, please? You can have a seat, Mr. Mickelson. Please state your name for the record.
Sure. Hi, my name is Catherine Dutton at 2393 20th Street Southeast Buffalo. We live on the lake side of Dean Lake, right next to where the drainage ditch runs that Brian mentioned. And I'm sorry, Brian, but I'm speaking against the rezoning request because we feel that it would likely mean there would be building on that site, a house or whatever someone might want, possibly on, if the land is subdivided, possibly on both sites. And we feel that would negatively impact drainage into Dean Lake, and it could easily cause flooding on our property, which is right next to that drainage creek or ditch, as well as on the adjacent side. Our concerns are about that more water running into that drainage ditch would happen with any more buildings, house or whatever, with a septic system being put in, any tiling, any blacktop or pavement. That would cause more sediment and farm field runoff into the lake. And the way it is right now, the ditch already needs attention. It's been identified, I think, by the dam that Brian mentioned as one of the primary sources of lake pollution. That creek or ditch, Dan with the Wright County Soil and Conservation District spoke at our Lake Improvement Association meeting recently. So we're concerned that any further erosion of the sides of that drainage ditch would happen, that would happen if there's more building done. The ditch also keeps expanding the way it is because the water comes up and the sides aren't adequately rip-wrapped, and so it just keeps making it wider. We're lucky our side is rip-wrapped, but the other side isn't. And even though we have that, we've lived there 4 years, and 2 of the 4 years, the water has come up right to the top of the riprap and could easily go over. This year, you know, we just kept our fingers crossed most of the time this spring. And so with those concerns, if the rezoning were to be approved, well, first of all, before you make a decision, we hope that you might consider a site visit so that you could see for yourselves what the situation is. I don't think that's happened yet. And also that you would require soil boring to see if any place on the site or the possibly 2 sites are even buildable, aside from the spot where there already is the building that Brian owns. We'd also ask for and hope for a drainage plan or maintenance plan that would be designed by an engineer to assure that the water runoff would be okay, and that there would be some conditions. And this, I know this would be down the road if someone were to purchase it and want to build, but conditions for where buildings could be put or driveways or septic systems. So just to share some of our concerns, and I know it's a multi-level process, so we might be back as it goes on. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to speak to this issue?
Hi, hello, I'm Jean Foley, and I also live right across we're on the corner of Cameron and 20th Street, right across from where the big culvert is that drains this ditch. And I'm concerned because each side of that proposed subdivision, one side of the creek or drainage ditch and the other side, they've been hayfields ever since we moved there. And 2 of the 4 springs that we've been there, both of those hayfields have flooded completely from practically side to side because of the drainage creek overflowing. And that drainage canal drains several very large farm fields that have been tiled up to the west. Dwayne Rolstadt owns that great big one you can see up there, and that's been tiled, and that drains directly across Cameron into that drainage ditch that comes past our house and into the lake. And Jan Canduth she doesn't have a house on her property on the other side of the drainage canal at the lake entrance, but that's her access area for her family to the lake. And they can barely get their dock in there anymore, and there's flooding that goes over onto their side, because their side doesn't have riprap either. And I talked to Andy Chalupsky, who built the house that we live in now, and when he built it, he wasn't too happy about that drainage ditch had been rip-trapped, but with very small stones. And when the water flooded through there, it obliterated that riprap. So he himself put in pretty large stones, he and his wife Jeannie, all along the creek there, just on our side, not on Jan's side. And this spring, when it flooded, it was right up to the top of those rocks, right, like seeping onto the grass on our lawn. And we've got one of the lowest lots on the lake, I think. And it's so close to flooding already. I can't imagine if somebody builds houses on both sides of that hayfield lot down there, that if there's any kind of fill or any kind of drainage or anything that will make it any worse than it is now, where's that water gonna go? It's gonna come back into the channel, down into the lake, overflow the banks and into our yard. And I measured today, it's about 11 feet from the top of that drainage ditch to the side of our house and deck. It's not very far at all. And I grew up in Le Sueur, Minnesota. You may have seen the news lately about the flood down there on the Minnesota River along Highway 93. Well, when I was 11 years old there, the river flooded and they said it was a 100-year flood. It would never happen again. The sign they put on the highway was way over my head after they rebuilt the road. Just 2 weeks ago, another 100-year flood came and the water went up over that bridge, over that road, and over that sign. And I think that's the environment we're in right now, 100-year floods. And we're not the only place, I know, but I just can't imagine what's gonna happen if somebody puts, especially if it would be one thing if this was gonna be ruled rural residential, but suburban residential, I looked it up in the books. I tried calling the office and the fella didn't know exactly what the difference was. And he was gonna call us back and didn't. So I went and looked it up in the notes, and I'm still not clear why this would be suburban residential rather than the current rural agricultural residential, especially if there's only any idea that only 2 houses are gonna be built, one on each side. And first of all, on the 20th Street side, that whole field fills with water. So I don't know where they're gonna put a house on that. On Bryan's side, there is somewhat of a rise way back to the east or the west, I mean, but most of that hayfield totally fills with water every year too. And when the creek overruns, we have a little library on our property right next to a slice of Jan's land, and Brian's kids come to the library, and that grassy area also fills with water.
Excuse
This is
me, ma'am.
across the street.
I've been very liberal in allowing you to go well over time, so if you could please wrap it
Yeah.
up, I'd appreciate that.
I used to be a teacher, so my students probably thought that too. Okay, so I'm just worried about, I totally trust Brian. He's been a great neighbor. He brought wood chips over for our little library and everything. But I worry if sometime while we're still living there in the future, if he sells this and it's been ruled suburban residential rather than rural or agricultural residential, somebody from the outside is gonna be able to come in and do things that they shouldn't be doing in that area. So, thanks for listening. Sorry for going over.
Anyone else wish to speak? Anyone else? All right, we'll bring it back up here. Mr. Mickelson, you can come up to the podium and address any of those
Sure.
concerns brought up.
Yeah.
Please.
So just to be clear, very, very, very clear, I live here. Obviously, you guys know that, right? The rezone can only have one house on it. You were very confused about a house going here. There's no house going there. It can't. This can only have one house on the 6 acres.
Ma'am?
Oh, excuse me. One house on the 6 acres, trying to just so they could see. One house on the 6 acres. So we already had bore testing. There's a septic right there, primary and secondary. The house will be way up here by the barn, or it can go right there. There is nothing happening down by the ditch. You can't even do anything like 100 feet from the ditch. You can't even put in any fence posts. So the whole drainage issue, I understand that the survey guy, his wife took a new job, they're somewhere else. This project was already supposed to be done or worked on. And if they are gonna do something in here on my property, it is going to slow the flow of water into your property. I actually own that property and I can say yes or no if I want them to help slow the flow of water or I don't let them on the property. I already talked to Dan today and Dan said, and I have it here, basically said the separation of the property has absolutely nothing to do with the water flow into Dean Lake. Zero. Nothing really changes other than there's gonna be a property line right there by the shed. That's the only thing that changes on this whole thing. And the house is gonna be way up here. If somebody ever bought that, they're gonna have to put a house way up here. You can't do anything down here. Thank you.
That water improvement can be done without the division. Correct?
Whatever, yeah, I mean, that's up to, yeah, Dan and them, they're trying to like go through it. They did the survey and the testing, but I guess they haven't really gotten too far.
But what I'm saying is, I mean, there's a lot of talk about the drainage in relation to this subdivision, but the subdivision isn't a part of the improvement in the drainage. The improvement to the drainage can be done whether the subdivision occurs or not.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, yeah, absolutely. That's gonna be done whenever. I mean, I'm just here basically to fit into the Wright County land use map, which I am. I mean, there's adjacent properties that are 5 acres right next to me. It's kind of, how do you not have a 6 acre property and a 5 acre property? I'm actually fitting in better.
How did it go with the township?
Oh, yeah, they're fine with it. They understand that, they agree that it's a weird property. I mean, look at it without there's this choke point or whatever there, and they're totally on board to create 2 properties there. It fits right in with the rest of the area. The only other house that'll be 10 acres will be Hickman's original farmstead. Other than that, they're 5 acres or less.
Right.
And mine are gonna be like 6.5 and 5.5. So
Okay.
nothing changes.
Very good. Anything from the board? Any questions of the applicant?
Yeah,
Please.
thanks. Mr. Mickelson, the standard that we have for the request that's before us talks about the need to identify unique circumstances. And if I understand you correctly, and I just want to make sure that I get it, your unique circumstances here would be the infill of areas to match more of the lots size-wise that are in the area than your current 11 acres does. Is that?
You're 100% correct, yes. Go ahead, bud.
If I think about the next Mr. Mickelson that comes along, who's got a nice 10, 11, 15, 20, 25 acre piece of property that's secondary off a lake, beautiful area. And in this world right now, you can break things up into 5 acres and there's great markets for it. But what I struggle with is if this is unique, why isn't every other property going to be unique that's got smaller lots on the lakes like most of them do? Help me understand why this is unique circumstances.
Why I want to subdivide?
Not why you want to do it. Everybody wants to do it. That's what I struggle with.
Yeah.
Right? Our standard from the Northeast Quadrant Land Use Plan says in order to rezone to this R2A zoning, we need to have unique circumstances. And it gives a list of things, and one of them is infill. But the phrase unique circumstances kind of means different than everybody else. Right? There are a lot of people who can explain why they'd love to subdivide their property into 5 acre pieces and sell them off. Right?
Correct.
Everybody's got a good reason to do that. But I need to look at the land and understand why your request, your land, is unique enough that when the next Mr. Mickelson comes along and has a request like this, I don't sit here and say, everybody's unique. Everybody should get to just disregard the existing zoning in favor of breaking it up into smaller lots so they can sell them off. It's a hard question.
It is a hard question because I'm just going by that. I think you can agree that if I split that property, does it fit into Wright County's land use plan?
That's the question.
Then
The Northeast Quadrant Land Use Plan
yes.
dictates our decisions.
Well, the answer is yes. It does fit into it. I mean, look at it right there, or wherever you can look.
Okay, fine. What I'm struggling with, and I feel like I'm maybe not making my point very well, is there's lots of lakes that will look like this. Lots of properties around lakes that will look like this.
Yeah.
There'll be a bunch of really small lots on the lakes. Even smaller, the better lake it is. And Dean Lake, the water quality, maybe it'll be great again someday, and it'll be the best recreational lake around. But beyond that, you start to get just off the lake, and you have 10-acre lots, 15-acre lots, sort of scattered about.
Mm-hmm.
And so I can find a picture that looks a lot like this throughout Wright County. And I try and draw a fairly principled stance on our ordinances when I get requests that look like this, so that if I vote to approve something, excuse me, I can be principled when the next guy comes with something that looks like this, and I need to be able to be comfortable saying no when it's not unique. And so I still come back to what's unique about this.
I think your question, or it is, I'm not following you, and of course I don't know all the use, but what's unique about it is I think it's an odd-shaped property. I think we can all agree on that. It'd be hard-pressed to find the, what do you want to call that? The choke point of 2 squares. That's what I think's unique about it. I think it's going to look better that somebody else can move in there, somebody else can enjoy the lake, somebody else can enjoy the country, and I don't know if you guys are in charge of getting Chipotle and Jersey Mike's around here too. They can enjoy going to Jersey Mike's and Chipotle. All right, I mean that's what I think is unique about it is an odd-shaped property, and dividing it is just gonna give somebody a chance to come out and enjoy some country living.
Thanks.
All right, any other comments? Where we should go? Dan?
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
the very first time I looked at this property, I saw right away that we had 2 parcels that are next to it that are already zoned R2A. And that's what he's requesting is R2A. I don't see anything where he's gonna be jumping over hopscotch zoning for that purpose. So obviously it was granted for that property. I don't know what the reasons were, but this property being next to that, in my mind, would make it unique. Because it already has R2A in 2 parcels right next to it. And those on the other side of the lake. It's not on the lake side, but it's on the other side of the property from the lake. That's my take on it. And I think it's a good split.
All right, any other comments?
Yeah, I think with all the drainage issues, I think we should do a visit, a site visit, just so we can see the concerns of the neighbors. It's very hard to dictate from looking at a map what this is gonna all pan out to be. So I would say, I would make a motion that we move to do a site visit.
I'd second that.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
I do, and I almost asked the teacher this because I probably wasn't the best student, but what is a single house going to do that is going to materially impact drainage? Like, I don't mind going out to look at it, to look at the drainage, but the question that I was having while there was a discussion about all this water and what this one house is going to cause in terms of problems water-wise, I can't see this one house moving the needle for the drainage of a watershed, but if I felt like I must be missing something.
I feel like it's, with that shed right there, it seems to be very cumbersome. It's a cumbersome piece of property from the map. So that's why I guess I'd like to view it from walking around it, and I think, I mean, I don't know.
I'm with you from the other purposes. It was just that when you said you want to go look at the drainage, I'd love to understand in an open meeting when we're all here what I'm supposed to look for when I go out and I say, boy, there's that ditch over there that's draining all those big fields over there, but I need to be concerned about this house and where it's going to move water. Right? Because it looks to me like the water is going to continue to go where it has always gone. The house is unlikely to create material amounts of new water. So what does it matter? I'm fully supportive of the motion and going out to look at it, great. But if I'm supposed to look at the ditch to understand why that matters to this, I just am going to need to understand why.
So I can maybe answer a little bit of that. In our office, we commonly see it, is as soon as you introduce additional hard surface where you have concentrated drainage and runoff, especially once you add gutters and other things, it's not so much the volume of water is going to change, but the rate at which it gets from point A to point B changes. The ability of anything in between that and a water source to infiltrate any water that comes off those surfaces is altered. This one does have, I mean, in all reality, the actual buildable area that's left, once you look at the septic system, is extremely tight. There isn't a lot of distance between that barn and where the septic systems are gonna go, which would accept a house location. There is not a lot of buildable area on that slope. That slope is the only place you can build. You can't build down in the meadow, as I would call it, because of soil types, any number of reasons. We also don't have a wetland delineation report for this, which pending rezoning, or if there's going to be a subdivision application, we'll likely ask for that, just to ensure that if we need to protect those areas, we can protect them if there are wetlands there. That's something that I'll be reaching out to Soil and Water, because it seems like they are familiar with it. So I'll reach out to Dan and Andrew at Soil and Water. But, you know, anytime you introduce hard surface, you introduce potential drainage complications because of the rate of flow of the water once it leaves the hard surface.
I get that part, but when I look at this property and it's a single house on 5 acres with a ditch that's moving a whole bunch of water already, and maybe Dan or Andrew can give us the definitive, like, does this move the needle or not? I understand it changes it, but does it change it so that it matters? Or is there enough surface area there where you're not going to notice, which is what my pea brain sees happening?
Yep. And there again, like I said, it's not, I don't think it's going to necessarily change, it's not going to change the volume of water that comes from the site or hits the site or anything else. The potential would be is how fast that water gets there. So in the end, I don't think it's going to necessarily overly increase the volume of water. The only thing it might do, because I don't know for sure, I'm not a hydrologist, is not allow quite as much water to infiltrate. And like I say, at the distance there, if rain falls on the top of the hill and filters through an additional 100 feet of hay ground before it gets to the creek, potentially more water is going to infiltrate. If you put a 3,000 square foot structure in there and then gutter it towards, basically anywhere that's going to end up towards the creek, more water is going to potentially get to the creek. Whether that's substantial or not, you would have to have far more engineering skills than I have. But as far as may impact, certainly may. I'm not saying it will, but it's not a, if other commission members feel it's a factor that they want to view.
All right, we
I
have
was just
a,
trying to give a little bit of what we see.
we have a motion on the floor, sir.
Oh, go ahead.
Any further discussion on the motion to have a field inspection? All those in favor of a site inspection signify by saying aye. Aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Very well. Well, now, sir, we're going to set a field inspection.
Okay.
What it means is that we'll come out, look at the property. The neighbors can show up if they wish, but I must acknowledge that we will not accept any public comment from the folks, but you can further explain what your ideas are. So
Sure.
at the end of the meeting, we're going to set that date and time.
Okay.
You can hang around to these boring meetings if you want to find out at the end
Well,
of the
these
evening.
guys want me to go because I've probably been a half an hour and, yeah, so, no, that's fine. I'll just talk to Dan or, not Dan,
Well, tomorrow.
whoever, yeah.
If
Just
if
call
you
the
want
office.
to take off tonight, you call the planning and zoning office tomorrow, and we will relay the date and time
Okay,
that we're going to be out there.
that's cool. No, I'm totally, you guys come on out for sure. I would, once
Okay.
you get a look at the property, you'll actually
Right.
see the
We'll
distance
be the
of the
judge of
house.
that once we get there.
Mr. Chair,
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
I have a comment for the applicant.
Yes.
Just when you make conversations about that you've had with Dan, as a commission member, I want to see email responses from him. I want something I can read. So this is what Dan says. When you make a comment about what he says, it really means nothing unless I can see, and he's really good about that. He hates going to meetings, but he likes to send emails.
Yeah,
I know Dan very well.
cool.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Call Josh tomorrow.
I will. Thanks, Bruce. Appreciate it. We're all
All right.
good?
Yep. good
Okay,
evening.
thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Guys have a good night.
Thank you.
All right, next on the agenda is Mary Mithun. Did I murder that last name, or did I do okay? Mithun?
My father-in-law used to say it rhymes with baboon.
Okay, please
Nobody ever
state your,
forgets it after
if you
that.
could please state your name for the secretary.
Do you want my address or the Applejack Orchard's address?
I don't care.
Applejacks, okay. I'm Mary Mithun. This is Maddie Mithun, and we are the two owners of Applejack Orchards, which is at 4875 37th Street Southeast in Delano, 55328.
Okay, very well. Mr. Reinberger?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, this is a 90.7 acre apple orchard along County Road 32. As stated, it is known as Applejack's Orchard. It's zoned ag in the plan. It has been through a number of hearings, in 2004, most recently in 2022, where they amended the existing permit to include commercial ag tourism and to allow the construction of a permanent pavilion to cover their corn pit. This request today is to amend that further and to include a new commercial slide, to repurpose an existing shed on the property into additional retail and have alcohol sales on the property. This is the kind of the extended aerial, and then we have another aerial indicating where the different stuff go. There is a current issue on the property, which Mary and I have talked about before. There's a snack shack, conversion of a grain bin into basically a concession. That was permitted by this commission. Unfortunately, they applied for the building permit, the previous owners did, not these current owners, and then they withdrew the permit and then converted it anyway. And so they're aware of it. They're going to be going through the process to get all the proper permits and get everything inspected the way it needs to be. So just so the commission is aware, that is something that's out there. It wasn't created by these applicants. We did receive approval from the township. Didn't get any other comments, and as stated, it's fairly simple. The building they're converting is existing. The slide's going to go into an area that used to be raspberries, which they no longer have, correct?
Correct.
And then it also shows an ag building on here, which actually it's going to be for ag storage. They don't actually need any approvals from the commission on it, and that too is a replacement, tear down, rebuild. It does have a little bit of commercial purpose. It does contain some of the, air compressor systems for the apple cannons and that kind of stuff, but it is essentially still part of the ag operation. So that's what I have.
All right, thank you, Barry. Do you have anything to add to that?
Not really. We bought the orchard in '22 from our daughter and son-in-law, and they had run it for 10 years with the Dukarskis before that. So there's a long relationship there. And last August, we had a giant hailstorm that wiped out our crop. And so we became aware of a need to have alternate forms of income besides the apples. And the slide, the adding retail in the pick your own shed, and the alcohol for events and things like that is all an effort to do that.
All right. Is there anyone from the audience that would like to speak to this issue?
Just real quick, Mr. Chairman. Right now, actually, the facility or the orchard itself is not permitted for events. It would have to be something as part of your normal everyday sales. Events weren't something that have been permitted up to this point. And so
Yeah.
weddings, those types of things aren't currently permitted. So you had said alcohol for events. Just wanted to be clear, events aren't allowed.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, you did, we
Yeah,
did discuss that.
Yeah, we have
so
discussed that.
We'll get back to that, but.
All right. Is there anyone else from the audience who would like to speak to this issue? All right, we'll bring it back up here. What would you like to do, folks?
So, Mr. Chair, I have a question for the applicant. Now, it seemed to me I had read somewhere that you wanted to have a lot of this activity take place on one side of the road for safety's sake. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So where's the parking gonna be? Is it still gonna be on the other side of the road, or?
No, let's see if I can, we have parking on three sides of the road. We have parking over on the south side where we have the buildings that house the cafe, the
Right.
gift shop, and the market. Then on the north side of the road is where we have the large, the stuff, the recreational activities.
Okay.
So the little families who are coming over to jump on the jumping pillow and to play on the jungle gyms and stuff, and they'll be on the slide. That's for the kind of the younger kids. And we found that it's kind of scaring us to the idea of them crossing over. So we've had them park right by that little yellow square there. And
Is that where the shed is now?
yes.
Okay.
And so we're just wanting to have them, we have a police officer out there every weekend, but we just would prefer them not crossing the road. And so what we want to do with the retail and the pick your own is offer them a chance to buy stuff over there, so they don't have to cross over to buy the stuff over at the gift shop
Okay,
and
thank
the
you.
cafe.
Thank you.
One more item, we own an adjacent property to the west side, excuse me, and the backyard of it has quite a big piece of property back there. We've been in conversations about potentially adding parking there so that there's more opportunity to continue being on that side and not need to cross over the road unless people are interested in the gift shop and cafe side as well. So just,
Which parcel, is it 2010, they own that parcel?
I think it's to the east.
yes,
is
to the east side. We actually own both. We own
Oh, to the east.
both
okay.
sides. Yep, so.
The little house that's right to the east of, kind of behind the blue.
303 is what we're looking at, correct?
3303?
Yes, sir.
3303.
Okay.
So
Okay, that
behind
makes
that,
sense.
that runs adjacent to the property. You don't have to cross over.
That's east of it in my book.
Yes,
Yes,
sorry.
yes.
I went with
Okay.
it and then realized I was incorrect, so.
I have a question, ma'am. When you do have the sheriff's deputy out there, what functions does he perform? Does he actually stop traffic to allow people to cross the street? Or is it just his presence that causes traffic to slow down, or what?
He kind of does both. What he does is he holds up traffic and brings the families across, and then he stops them and brings, so he's kind of directing.
Okay, so there's two major highways to cross. Does they have like two deputies?
No, it's just 37th Street, but,
I call that a county road, right?
oh,
What a
okay.
county road it is.
Man, they're going fast. It feels like a highway.
Right. But what about that one that goes south toward the river?
Farmington.
Farmington? That's got a stop sign, but also, I just referred to that because across Farmington to the east is a parking lot as well.
Right, yeah, I understand. I've traveled that highway
Oh,
quite
okay.
frequently.
Yeah.
I'm well aware of your operation.
Yeah.
I was just concerned, and actually I do avoid it in the fall because of all the traffic.
Yeah, I'll bet, yeah.
But I can imagine it could get somewhat hazardous,
Yeah.
so. All right, any other questions from the applicant or to the applicant?
So just as a point of clarity, that property to the east is not part of the current IUP. And so parking would not be allowed there unless the IUP was amended to allow that parking on that property.
Oh, okay.
Good to know, something we'll come back with.
Is that included in our motion tonight?
No, because I didn't even know they owned it.
You're talking the
Sorry,
5
it was
acres?
just,
Yep.
Okay.
we're always looking for parking, so
this-
just an idea.
This parcel right here.
Oh, I thought you meant the one east of Farmington down there.
Well, they talked
Mary.
about one on the north side of the road. This is a property that they just picked up.
Yeah, okay, I understand, that's another matter.
Yep. So that would be another matter that you would have to
Right,
come back
thank
to
you.
expand into that.
All right,
I have
anything
a
else?
question.
Yes, ma'am.
When you talk about moving the retail and stuff across the road, what building would you be putting that in?
It's the little yellow square, and actually, we've had retail in there for many years. That's where we were selling the aforementioned raspberries and strawberries.
Okay, but you had also talked about putting parking there. That's why I'm confused.
Oh, I'm sorry, I was just referencing that as it's,
Okay.
so south
Yeah,
of
she said
that, but
parking
north
where
of
the little
30
yellow square was, and I'm like, okay, you're gonna take that down, make parking where
No,
you
no,
build
no,
your
no, no,
retail.
no, 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 no,
Okay,
we need
I'm
that.
Trying to stay on the same page.
Yeah,
with
don't
you.
take that.
I'm
Yeah.
running. I'm running my icon around it. It's
Yeah.
Thank you, thank you.
Lots of moving parts.
Thank you, Barry. No, it's the parking, it looks like, kind of looks like a lung x-ray, that the green,
All right.
You see it?
Yeah.
Yep.
I think we get it.
that's where we
Do you have a
park.
cursor out there to use?
We do not.
Do they?
No.
I think that'd be a good idea.
That is a good idea.
Okay, well, let's move on here. Any
Okay.
other questions? I would entertain a motion. well.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion to approve an expansion of the current interim use permit for commercial agricultural tourism for Applejack Orchard to include alcohol sales, repurposing an existing shed to include additional retail and a new commercial slide in accord with the business plan description held on file in the discussion this evening with the following conditions. One, current conditions as outlined in previous approvals on file will remain in full force and effect. Two, the parking on public highways, streets, or roads is prohibited. Three, the township to review in 1 year with subsequent reviews scheduled at an interval as deemed appropriate by the township. Four, portable toilets must be provided for the maximum number of daily guests expected in accord with the letter dated February 2nd of 2023 from the Wright County Environmental Health Officer. Number five, this permit shall expire upon the transfer of the property, the termination of any lease agreement, or change in business ownership or operations. And six, there are no events allowed under the IUP, and events such as a wedding or other such gatherings or any other change or expansion of use shall require a new interim use permit.
I'll second that.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I did forget one thing, just because I know there's construction that's involved in this, including the slide. All appropriate building permits be applied for, issued, and inspected prior to the use of those buildings by the public.
There isn't, oh, I shouldn't talk after you make a motion, right?
No, that's fine. What, you have a question? What was, answer the lady's question if you would,
Yeah.
please.
The building that's being built doesn't have the public in it.
Your retail sales?
That's a different building. That was, Josh got that confused. And so he rewrote that maybe 2 weeks ago. But the retail sales building was built in 2004. And it's the same size as the shed that we need to rebuild. So that building remains the way it is. It's the yellow square, and that's where we'll be doing the retail sales. But that's,
Give me just one moment, Mr. Chairman.
we've always had that for retail.
Always had it for retail, and having been approved to have the public in it are two different things.
Well, Michael is going to come over and make sure that it's up to code.
You're not replacing that one?
No,
Can we solve this by just requiring that all applicable building permits be obtained prior to?
That's what the motion says.
Yeah. You guys can figure out during regular business hours which ones actually need it and which ones don't. The motion and the approval would just require that you get it right and then you abide by it. So I'd like to add that condition.
Number
well.
7.
And who seconded
And
it?
I'm fine with it.
You're good? Okay. All right, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Granted. Very well, good luck.
thank you.
Right.
Stop by for pie.
Yeah. Mr. DeMarais, you're up next, but I would like to take a 5-minute chairman's break, if that's okay with you? Good. We'll take a 5-minute break here, folks. Okay, when you're ready. Barry?
Well, I didn't hear Jonathan give his address because I really want to know where he lives.
Born and raised Buffalo proper, currently reside at 2145 Gallery Court in lovely Victoria, Minnesota.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, this is a 35.4 acre property that sits between County Road 39 to the north, Baker Avenue to the northwest, and to the east in Silver Creek Township. It's zoned agricultural currently. Nearly all of the property falls within the S2 Shoreland Overlay District. There is just a small corner in the southwest that does not. It is rural residential in the land use plan. There is a little unnamed lake to the north, and Lake Ida, that's where the S2 comes from. In this notice map, you can see that little unnamed lake to the north. This request is to rezone from general agriculture to agricultural residential. The concept plan is for a 3-lot subdivision. That would include just a standard 300 feet on the road, 10-acre minimum with the 3 houses. There are an existing house and buildings there that would remain on the site, and that is one of those 3 parcels. As you can see in the land use plan, it's in the plan. There has been rezonings around it within a fairly close proximity. So we did receive approval from Silver Creek Township. They are asking for some type of drainage assessment for what in this plan would be Lot C. That would be something that would be part of the subdivision phase, not part of the rezoning phase. 2 neighbors have indicated that they do not support the rezoning request. Both of those are in your package.
Very well. Mr. DeMarais, do you have anything to add?
I think that is a lovely summary of what we're trying to do here. Again, we're just trying to operate within the comprehensive land use plan as the property's guided, not asking for any variances or anything unique. We did talk to Adam with the roads, with the county roads, and he did review it and do a site visit and said that having an access coming off of County Road 39 would be something that he would approve. There currently is a field approach that they approved and installed last year along that 301 feet on parcel A. He says as part of the next phase, in the development phase, he may require that slid more to the west, but he doesn't see that access would be an issue there. The current farmstead would be the largest parcel of the 3, so we're really asking for 2 new lots. It'd be 13 acres, and the current ground's 35 acres, but just over half of it is low ground, wet ground, and it is very rolly and slopey farm ground there.
Okay, very well. Any questions of the applicant from the board? If not, I'll ask the public, is there anyone out there who would like to speak to this applicant's issue here? Yes, sir.
Ryan Soderholm, 10672 Baker Avenue, so directly across the road from parcel C. We kind of talked through this at the township meeting, and we talked about it as a lake association as well. Our main concern obviously is with parcel C and the drainage. That whole side, or I should say the east side of Baker Avenue there is pretty low. There's already a good amount of runoff on that property, or on parcel C, that comes across and affects the properties on the east side of Baker Avenue. So we just want to make sure that that drainage assessment is done, because obviously they're going to be adding driveways and parking areas and house or garage structure or anything of that nature that's going to directly affect that drainage. And then the only other concern that we had was the kind of not tentative, but the connection between this property and the 80 acres directly to the south of it, that is also in the process of being, or there's an attempt to subdivide that as well. The original information put out to the public was that there was going to be deeded lake access involved in that other parcel. We just want to make sure that there, regardless of what's going on with that property, that there isn't any connection to any of these properties, and there isn't going to be any attempt to offer any sort of deeded lake access with these parcels.
Very well. Anyone else in the audience? Gentlemen?
Hi, Dwayne Van Kulen. I live at 10724 Baker Avenue, right across the road from the parcels. If I heard correct, the access is going to be from 39, and there's not going to be any access from Baker Avenue. Is that correct?
It's my understanding.
Lot C would have to access from Baker.
From
I'm sorry?
Baker?
Lot C would access from Baker.
Correct.
Okay,
Just one of the parcels.
okay. I didn't make it to the township meeting. I don't know if that's where it's covered or not, but is there any plans on upgrades or anything to the road for with extra traffic? I guess that's my question.
Very well.
And the drainage is the same thing, because we
Sure.
already had to put drainage ditches in to drain off the water in that low area there on parcel, what is it, parcel B, where the farmhouse is, and then across Baker where my in-laws live. And they had to put drainage on there to keep it from overflowing the road. So drainage is a concern.
All right, very well. Anyone else in the audience? Sir?
Good evening, Commissioners. Chris Klein, Silver Creek Township, and also on the Planning and Zoning Board there. So some of the information that was talked about tonight is there's concern with the drainage. Township's got to do some major ditch cleaning down there. There's probably 40 years of cattails that have grown up into ditches. There aren't literally any ditches there anymore, so it's all organic matter. So that's where the concern for any development and any impact of more water that could be dumped in there or more flow, quicker flow into it. There are a couple resident properties on the lake side that kind of store the heavy rains, and it floods out their lawns, and I'm not sure if it does any damage in their homes there, but it's awfully wet. So that's the main reason for the request for the engineer to do some water study there on the concept plan, and we would assume that that's where that would come in. The other thing the township talked about is the access for that Lot C on the concept plan. It'll be off Baker Avenue. There's an existing driveway there that maybe that could be encompassed with that and use that, which would likely not impact that ridge and cause any additional drainage issues and such. For the concept plan, the township didn't really want the applicant to come back. We didn't have an issue with the concept plan. But the other thing that was discussed was some type of compensation or consideration for road improvements there, since there will be one lot that will be using Baker Avenue. And we asked the applicant to come in and discuss that with the township board. That wouldn't be necessarily a planning and zoning board for the township, but the township supervisor board meeting, and see what they can do to put some money towards some improvements for Baker Avenue there, so. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so
Mr.
much.
Chair, I have a question for
Yes.
Mr. Klein.
Really?
So, talk to me about Baker. Is that pretty flat, or is there a culvert going underneath anywhere?
There is, so coming off County Road 39, there's an elevation difference. County Road 39 is quite a bit higher. So
Yep.
you're dropping down on 108th Street there, I believe it is.
Yep.
And then when you get to the curve, then it starts to flatten out. Right in the corner, there is a swamp. Mr. Van Kulen mentioned that years ago, the township worked with the landowner and put a drainage tile from the west side across the property there, into the lake. And I believe that's about an 8-inch, could even be bigger, I'm not sure. I know it's an 8-inch intake. And then,
Wetland? From the wetland there?
it is, yes.
Okay.
And then it kind of breaks, 300 feet or so to the south. So it drains to the north and then it starts draining back to the south. So there's quite a bit of water. There's a current culvert underneath that driveway for the concept plan Lot C. The next culvert that crosses is down beyond Arnold Circle a little bit, right about in there. And that culvert's kind of dry. It doesn't really, and they're just equalization culverts. It doesn't really drain too much until we get those ditches cleaned out.
Yeah.
And then there's another culvert that drains fairly decent, but again, the ditches need to be cleaned out and it'll drain better down right in there, Barry. So, and all those, there's natural drainage swales to the lake from the ditches and where those culverts are located.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else from the audience? Anyone else? If not, we'll bring it back up here. What does the commission wish to do? Or, excuse me, would you like to address any of those things, Mr. DeMarais, first?
Certainly. Yeah, Mr. Klein, I'm open to, like we said at the call at the township meeting, to have dialogue about that. I did commit to paying for the civil engineer to do an assessment there about future impacts based on where possible the build of a home could be, and trying to make sure I want to be part of the solution too. We don't want to be part of perpetuating the problem that is a pre-existing condition, which is the issue on the road that we're kind of abutting that issue with the Baker running north and south. But no, we want to be a part of the solution with that, not trying to make it worse. So that is about it. So I'll let you carry on.
Okay, very well. All right, board, what would you like to do?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion for a site inspection. I think I need to see this one. I'm a pretty good judge when I can see water and the way they work, and
Very well.
been
We
doing
have a
it for a
second?
long time.
I'll second it.
All right, any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of a site inspection signify by raising your, saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, we'll set that up.
Sounds good.
You know how the process works.
Appreciate you. Thank you for your time.
Okay. All righty then, let's go on to agenda number 5, Aaron Weiss. Did I pronounce that correctly?
Yep, that's good. Yeah,
Very good.
I'm Aaron Weiss, 10912 Oliver Avenue near South Haven,
Oh, yeah, okay.
Southside Township.
All right, Barry?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the property is roughly 12 and a half acres located along County Road 3, also known as Oliver Avenue, in Southside Township. The property is zoned agricultural and is agricultural in the Northwest Quadrant Land Use Plan. This request is for a non-commercial contractor's yard to operate a tree service business that includes a 110 foot by, roughly 110 feet by 150 foot outdoor storage area for equipment and materials related to the tree service business. Southside Township has approved. We have not gotten any further comments. The applicant's narrative and plans are in your files. This is a close-up look of where the proposed storage area would be, and this is just a little bit farther out view of it, as well as pictures submitted by the applicant. And the description of those pictures is also in your packet.
All right, Mr. Weiss, you have anything else to add to that?
Sure. Yeah, like Barry said, I operate a small tree service. It primarily serves the Annandale area. I work alone, no employees, and also the equipment I have is basically just a 1-ton pickup truck with a dump trailer and a mini skid steer. So I don't have a fleet or anything. I don't have people coming in and out to start the day. It's just me in the morning. And I haven't had any issues as far as neighbors or anything like that commenting on the activities. It's pretty low key, so. These are pictures from County Road 3. The one in the top right corner is the primary visual, I would say, for drivers going to the west. And you can kind of see in that photo the house back there. I park my equipment sort of behind the house and garage area as well as I can, so that people they don't see it, or it's kind of the spot where it's least visible.
All right. Okay, is there anyone from the public that would like to speak to this issue? All right, hearing none, we'll bring it back up here. Any questions of the applicant?
Mr. Chair, I have a question for Barry. In here, it said that there was a CUP that had expired. What was,
No, that was
did that
from,
mean?
that was from the township. It's actually a variance, so the applicant got a variance to put a porch on the house.
Oh,
Variances are good for
okay.
3 years, he hasn't constructed the porch, the variance is expired, he wants to build a porch, he's gotta come back and reapply.
okay, thank you.
So that was a misunderstanding by the township, not by,
Okay,
Yeah, and that was clearly my fault for not following through on that one, so.
it didn't say what kind of it expired, what kind of permit it was, and I didn't know if it was the same kind you were seeking. That's why I asked
Understood.
that. Okay.
one question that I have is that, I look at the aerial photos and it looks like on the west side of the property, you have kind of an open area and it looks like there have been storage of materials from sites in that area. Based on this, that's no longer gonna be the case?
On the west side, yeah, I don't really have any. I've got a woodshed, like a lean-to spot, Barry. Oh, that field there?
Yes.
That's just open field. It's not being used for anything. What you see there, there's some brush that had been dumped there that I dumped there years ago. But I no longer dump back there or anything like that. So there's no plans or anything to use that for business. For future use, yeah.
All right, anything else from the board? Where are we going with this one?
Mr. Chair, I make a motion. My motion, I'm going to try my best off of this, is to approve petition for an interim use permit to operate a non-commercial contractor's yard that includes 110 by 150 foot outdoor storage space for equipment and materials related to the applicant's tree service business in accordance with the plans and narrative on file and the discussion at the hearing this evening with the following conditions. All work must be conducted off-site. Business-related materials must be stored inside a building or within the area indicated for exterior storage. The applicant must live on the property and have the property homesteaded prior to operations commencing. Any and all signage must be in accordance with the county sign regulations. Any change in use or expansion would require a new IUP, and the permit shall expire upon the transfer of the property, termination of any lease agreement, or change in business ownership or operations. The township to review in 1 year with subsequent reviews at an interval established by the township.
I'll second that.
Very well, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion passes.
Thank you for your time.
Best wishes to you. All right, number 6, we have a Mr. Joseph Holthouse.
I'm named Joseph Holthouse, 7370 Cahill Avenue Northeast. I have the land that we're applying for a IUD for expansion of a gravel pit.
All right, yes, sir.
And I'm John Olkosh, 6930 Lancaster Way, Northeast, Albertville, Minnesota. I work for Valley Paving, we're the operator in the.
Okay, very well. Barry?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the property's 80 acres. It's about a mile west of the intersection of State Highway 25 and County Road 6 in Monticello Township. As noted, this would be considered a new permit application, not necessarily an expansion, as this parcel wasn't included in any of the previous ones, and through the addition of the 80 acres now required an EAW, which has been done, has been approved by the county board, indicating no need for an environmental assessment or environmental impact statement. The plans have been submitted. They are in your packet. The limitations on mining operations is 10 years, so this is a 10-year pit. Based on the size of the pit and the volume of materials, likely will be coming back for extensions to that as time goes and as their 10-year expires. We did receive approval from the township. And as indicated in the packet, I don't know if it's actually in the packet, we did have through that environmental review responses from the DNR, MnDOT, Department of Administration, all did send comments on the EAW itself with no concerns for this pit. We did receive a letter from a neighbor that actually has the property in which the easement for access to this pit is, which is, I didn't highlight it, but it's this strip right here. So the access to this pit is coming through another property here. The applicant has a easement across that portion of property. So in your packet is a letter from that property owner's attorney indicating their view of use of that access. We also have Mr. Holthouse's attorney providing a rebuttal, which is also in your packet. So, currently we don't deal with the easement portion of it. Staff's concern is that if we approve this plan as submitted and that something happens and that easement isn't usable, now we have a whole new plan because access is going to have to come from someplace else, which is not indicated in the plan. So that's why, what we have in there for a motion is for continuation. For one, any pit of this size, we should be site inspecting it. And two, hopefully in that time frame, we can get some more clarity on the use of the access just to ensure that the plans that we have are sufficient and are what is going to be used. That's all I got.
Anything to add, Mr. Holthouse?
Nope.
All right. Anyone from the audience wish to speak to this issue? Please state your names and addresses for the secretary, please.
Bill and Cindy Holthouse at 5917 Highway 25 North, Buffalo, Minnesota. Our main concern here is back in 2017, we granted an easement that was very specific. It highlighted tracts of land only it was good for. And Joe's easement now is good for his mining, but the new tract he's proposing, the easement doesn't allow for other tracts to be part of that easement. It's very specific. And that's why we brought it to the board's attention with a letter of our concerns. So that's our main concern here, that we feel the existing easement does not allow for this new tract of land to be part of it.
Okay. Very well. In other words, the proposed land here that Mr. Joseph Holthouse is speaking of is not a benefited parcel.
Mr. Chair, I don't want us to opine that.
Okay.
That is nothing that we get involved in here at the county or at this planning commission.
Right.
If they want to have a civil suit and they would like to help
Yeah,
their attorneys' kids go to college, that's on them, and they can do that all they want.
Yeah, I was just kind of curious if that was included, and I think you've explained that it was not. Is that correct? Okay. Thank you. Anything else?
No, that's all we have.
That's it.
Thank you.
All right. Anyone else from the audience wish to speak to this issue? All right, we'll bring it back up here. That's my understanding that we'd kind of like to wait till this issue is resolved. Mr. Reinberger, Mr. Kreiser?
Mr. Chair, members of the board, I don't want to phrase it as wait for this issue to be resolved. I mean, we can proceed as is. Staff is just pointing out that if there is an issue later on, then that means that this is going to have to come back later on, and Mr. Holthouse is going to have to amend his access at some point in time. If a court disagrees with him, he'll have to come back for an amended application. Staff is just pointing out what could happen if a court were to rule against Mr. Holthouse, who is the
Okay.
applicant here today. If
Okay,
Mr.
very well.
Holthouse wants us to move forward, we most certainly can.
All right, board?
Yeah,
You
I'd
got
like-
anything to add, Mr.?
Like to move forward with it.
Very well.
Mr. Chair, a question for Barry and Greg. We have a contest about access to the parcel or one of the parcels that's subject to the application. Do you think some time for you to be able to assess whether it's a credible issue or not is something that we should come back to? And I'm just trying to compare the notes that we have in our file with your commentary there, Greg, of we don't get involved, with potentially some commentary that says, let's give it some time to figure out so that you can, and I don't know that you get paid more, Greg, for looking at it harder.
Mr. Chair and Member Mulberg, I mean, I have my own opinion on the matter, but frankly, it doesn't matter between these two parties. I'm not paid to sit in one of the fancy rooms in the other building over there and make those decisions, nor has the governor appointed me to do that. So my opinion on it really isn't relevant, I don't think, here, and it's not my job to provide legal advice to the parties. But if Mr. Holthouse wants us to move forward, I think we have every reason to move forward with it as presented, and the parties civilly can deal with it on their end. What Barry was indicating also is, we usually do site inspections on new gravel pits. This is a new gravel pit, so if the parties need to work out their differences, and they possibly can or can't in the next month, who knows? But we usually do site inspections on pits, so maybe we should just have a site inspection. And if something changes and Mr. Larson decides differently in his letter and we can move forward, the parties drop their disagreement, then we can just do that then. But
Yep, and that helps, Greg, for the context of it, for advising us on what you do advise us about. Do you have any thought as to whether the dispute is in any way relevant to the factors that we have to look at? Because I can't quite slot it in as,
Mr. Chair, members, and Member Mulberg, providing legal advice to this entity, I will just say you can't provide an easement over your own property. That is legally impossible to do because you own the property. The easement as written indicates that you can access a parcel. And I guess that easement, as I read it, doesn't limit what you can do on your own parcel after you leave that easement, which I think is what the Best and Flanagan letter got to, is the easement indicates you can get to a parcel for mining activity, and if you do farther mining activity on a contiguous parcel, that would appear to be in compliance, which would be my general understanding of easement law as well.
fine, but if I take everything that you just said and try and make it matter to any one of the factors that we have here, I can't.
Because I don't think it does
Okay,
matter.
that's, I just wanted to check my reading of that.
No, staff's main concern with it is we usually put a condition that says this is your access
Yep.
to this use. And if we do that, there's just the potential that if a court says you can't use that access, then Mr. Holthouse is going to have to come right back here again and petition us again.
Okay.
And I try to treat all such requests equal, although tonight there doesn't appear to be much, a big contingent of public outcry over a pit. We're opening ourselves back up to that every time we have to open up a pit. And so I want, from a planning perspective, I want plans to be right. That's why we phrase it that way.
All right, now folks up here, do we want to have a site inspection?
Yeah, I'll make a motion that we go for a site inspection.
All right, Is there a second?
I'll second it.
All right, motion and second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all of those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Okay,
Thank you.
we'll let you know.
Okay, sounds good.
This will be the fourth.
Thank you.
I know.
Anything else to come to the board tonight?
I know.
You lucked out
Just
for
to
some.
schedule those site inspections,
I'm sorry?
just the scheduling of the site
Right,
inspections.
other than that, anything else?
Trotting around the county.
How many did we do, 2 or 3?
We have 4.
It's our fourth site inspection of this.
Idiots. What's the matter with you?
Vacant lot.
Okay, what do we got open? What do we got open, commissioners? Our next meeting is
August 8th.
August 8th,
Our next meeting is August 8th.
right?
Really?
Wow.
Are we in favor of doing all 4 in one day?
3.
Yes?
Yes.
You said 3?
Oh, yeah, honestly, from a route standpoint, it's not that far. One's a few miles south of Buffalo. You head up 25 from there, you hit Pitt, go around the corner, and you're at County Road 39, you come back on County Road 11.
I feel
And-
like
Is our
there's
next
4.
meeting really August 8th?
How many are there,
That's
Cheryl?
3 weeks. That's what in the summertime, we're 3 weeks in between meetings. We have 2 meetings in August, and then we're one a
Right.
month after that.
Okay,
I got 3. Yes,
Oh,
I
I
have
felt
3.
like it was 4.
It's 3.
I felt like 4.
Michelson or Mickelson,
And it's
DeMarais, and Holthouse.
7:30, right?
Yeah.
what?
Let me look at the old calendar here.
What do we got open, folks? We generally have been doing them on a Monday, right?
Yeah, we've been doing it all.
Okay, that gives us the 22nd and the 29th of
I
July.
cannot do it the 22nd.
Okay, how about the 29th?
22nd, 29th, or the 5th.
I'm sorry?
5th is budgeting. Think right?
The
No,
29th
I
is
have
fine with
mine on
me.
the 8th.
No, Jeannie, I can get that quick.
Yeah, I only see the one I'm need
Yeah.
to be at. I'm on the 8th.
It could be a team meeting too,
The
Jeannie.
29th or the 5th works for me.
I'm good on both, so
29th, okay?
29th would be better.
meet
for
here
me,
at
yes.
8:30.
8:30 here, 29th of July?
Right.
Yes, no?
Wait,
Yes.
wait.
Let me just make sure.
I can't do it the 29th.
You can't.
No. But if it works for everybody else, I can do it the 5th.
Well, then we got the
And the
5th?
meeting's on the 8th?
Oh, we've got the 5th available.
I have a new employee starting. I don't know if I'll be able to commit to the 5th.
On the 5th?
I can commit to the 29th.
You can?
Yes.
Jeannie, I'm not showing anything for budgeting for you on the 29th.
We're talking July.
I know, but I have another commitment that
Okay.
day, so. I could do it in the afternoon.
And upon
Fine
dates,
with
if you look
that.
at- I'm open,
fine
I
with
got a
the
lot of open
afternoon.
availability, so.
Can we do it in the afternoon on the 29th?
What, Barry, don't you work? Just kidding.
I just don't have meetings.
That'd be
Oh,
better for
okay,
me
okay.
afternoon.
Yeah, can we do it on the afternoon on the 29th? Because that's better for
you
most of
bet.
us. Pat's smiling.
I will be equally likely to attend
If it's
either
Whether
date,
it's morning or afternoon.
it's in
whether
the
it's morning or
afternoon,
afternoon.
Oh, we figured that, that's why we
You can
reserved.
come either
Okay,
time.
so
I will be there
Jeannie,
if I
Dan,
can
and
be
I, it's better in the afternoon. Ken, how's the
Is it,
afternoon?
ea-
look
is
for
it
you?
easier in the afternoon for you?
Not good,
No.
but that's okay.
Oh.
I don't have to
Is
go.
it harder?
I'll defer on your judgment.
What time, Jeannie?
I would say anytime noon and after.
1 o'clock?
1 o'clock sounds good.
On the 29th,
How long do you think it's gonna take us?
2 hours?
2 hours.
Right, because I have a 4 o'clock massage. I just want to know if I need to cancel.
Not gonna make it at what time?
1 o'clock on the 20th.
Here.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. We'd leave here at 1, right? Or would we leave here at 12:30, Barry?
Let's leave here at 12:30.
Leave here at 12, you want to meet at 12:30 or leave at 12:30?
Dan says we gotta meet here at 1.
Oh, meet here at 1 then.
Yeah.
Can you come then? Kim?
my address for the
Probably
written
not.
notice.
Don't worry about me. I'll just defer to your judgment.
Oh,
I don't always check the mail very good.
All right, so we're meeting here at 1 o'clock on the 29th.
Three people there?
That's awesome. Thank you.
And Jan and,
Pat, I'll save you a seat on the short bus.
On the 29th at 1?
yeah.
You can save me
So-
if you want.
That's what
Odds
they-
are.
Since it's in the afternoon, I'll be going home after. I'll bring a cooler.
Okay.
A cooler, what's gonna be in there?
I knew that, Pat.
Nothing that I'm going to say on the record.
To adjourn.
No.
Are we adjourned?
Okay, recap, July 29th, 1 o'clock here.
Yep,
I'm sorry?
so be it.
Anything else before the board?
I make a motion to be done.
I'll
Adjourn at 9:25.
Okay. We are adjourned.
Less than 2 hours.